been going absolutely mental this morning. Absolutely mental. We heard yesterday this deal was all but done. He was coming over to London for a medical today, and we were going to get the announcement before the deadline tomorrow. But there has been a spanner thrown in the works by Sporting, by Spurs, whichever way you want to look at it. And I'm going to get into all these updates. So it was first brought in from David Ornstein. He's the first one that broke it this morning. And he says, Tottenham move for PEDRO Porro is off after Sporting reneged on terms of proposed deal. 23-year-old is distraught after Sporting president told the right wing back that following Saturday's League Cup final, he would be allowed to leave. Ali Gold. Big late problems with PEDRO Porro deal. Medical has been scheduled for today, but currently isn't going to happen after a change at the Sporting end. Next 24 hours are going to be crucial as to whether the deal can be salvaged, with Porro desperate to move. Romano. Tottenham had medical tests booked today in order to complete the deal agreed on Saturday as players said goodbye to the fans. Sporting changed details and conditions of the deal right before signing the documents. Tottenham are now still working to resolve issues to get PEDRO Porro done. All parties are in contact. Bellerin to Sporting deal depends on Porro to Spurs. One more to watch in the final hours. And he did go on to say in a video that PEDRO Porro to Spurs is still on. Gary Jacobs said that Sporting have refused to sign off any final agreement over administration fees for PEDRO Porro. They want Tottenham to pay 2.6 million to cover the costs of payment methods to administer the deal. Paul O'Keefe says, I knew Sporting were awful to deal with, but on a whole, this is a whole new level reached. They've already dropped into the negotiation late that his release clause was not valid as it had an expiry date before 12 days of the window closed, before the last 12 days of the window. They used that to start asking for more money, which Spurs overcame. Where does it end? Do we offer another 5 million and then they say yes and then no again? The player was scheduled to arrive in Tottenham this morning and is obviously pissed. More fallout to come, no doubt. Nobody, however, can trigger his release clause, hence why they're after more money. And he did go on to say, Paul O'Keefe, that Daniel Levy has now taken over the Porro negotiations. Dan Kilpatrick says there will be further talks with Sporting. PEDRO Porro is pushing for the move. Tottenham are not thought to be working on any other deals for the first team as it stands. Missing out on Porro would leave them with just one addition this month. Nazar Kinsella saying, I don't think the PEDRO Porro to Tottenham is fully off. It sounds like it is Sporting negotiation tactic around final few details of the 40 million transaction, knowing just how much Spurs need him. And finally, Matti Moretto says the PEDRO Porro affair at Tottenham is still alive. The negotiations suddenly slowed down due to payment methods, but all parties involved do not take it for granted. So the most reliable one in David Ornstein saying it's completely off. Romano saying it could still be on. Ali Gold saying these next 24 hours are crucial. Where do you stand on this?
Who knows where to stand? You got a load of tier ones conflicting reports at the moment about where this deal stands. You know, I went to bed last night. It's such good spirits. Everything was good. We had such a great day on Saturday. We had the Here We Go. We had a nice cup win. Danjuma scored on his debut. Everyone was saying medical Monday. Today was going to be Porro day. It was going to set to be the end of the daily Porro. I went to bed so nice. Then I woke up and I look at my phone. It was like, Porro deal off. This Porro, the stumbling blocks in the Porros. I was like, let me try that again. I went back to sleep and I was like, maybe it's got to be a nightmare. This can't be true.
Woke up, it got even worse.
As I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is falling through right now. Sporting, to be fair to them, they are going to try and squeeze every single dime out of Spurs that they can, and I understand why they will. They've sold 3 high-profile players over the last 6 months to a year. They sold João Paulinho, they sold Matheus Nunes to Wolves, they sold Nuno Mendes to PSG. I don't think they're in they really want to keep selling high-profile players right now, considering 3 in a very short space of time. They know the Premier League clubs right now. You look at the Premier League spend over the January window compared to all the other leagues. We dwarf the Premier League dwarfs every other league when it comes to spend. They know that Premier League clubs have so much more resources and so much more money compared to teams in Premier League, and even at this point, La Liga and Serie A and things like that. They're not spending anywhere near as much. Like you look at Zaniolo deal, Bournemouth are competing with AC Milan to try and get that deal done. Like the finances there just show how much power Premier League clubs have. So when you are a team in Portugal, you're going to try and squeeze every single dime and try and get every single million you can. However, if you're negotiating with a Premier League club, and that is what is happening right now, they keep reneging on deals. They keep trying to ask for more and more money. They keep trying to push the boundaries. They try to get up to. They got the 45 million they wanted. They're trying to get up to 48 million. They try and even creep up to maybe 50 million euros. And from Tottenham's point of view, obviously, when you agree a deal, there's got the club you're negotiating with keep reneging on the deal. There's got to be a point where you say, look, enough is enough, and we're not going to give you any more. We agreed on this price, and we're not going to we're going to stop at this point. But if depends what is true. If it's the 2.6 million administration fee, which is what the stumbling block is, then obviously that has to get done. I think we probably should pay an administration fee because we're trying to sign the player from Sporting. That's the name of the game. We're trying to sign their player. We've entered negotiations with them to get their player. So all these kind of fees, which have built up through the negotiations, Tottenham should probably pay it if that's what the stumbling block is. If it's just Sporting Lisbon trying to eke more and more money for the sake of it, depends how much. It depends on all these different aspects. Obviously, we don't know the details completely. There's conflicting reports, but what I don't have is sympathy for this hierarchy, because this is something Daniel Levy has reportedly done many a time when he comes to negotiating deals with other clubs for other players. Many chairmen have repeatedly complained about how Daniel Levy has gone back on deals and completely gone back to the table and reneged on deals many times. Even when they've agreed on something, then he's wanted to add something else and add something else and add something else. The fact of the matter is, Spurs have had. You can say we've had a month, but we've had even more than that to get this deal done, to get this deal underway. We've had the whole month of the World Cup to be negotiating with Sporting for who we wanted to. We've had the whole month of January to get this deal over the line. And the fact that we've gone into the last few days of the window unsure whether this deal is going to get over the line and still negotiating, still haggling, and it's still on the table, is quite frankly on the board, whatever way you slice it. I don't think you can. If whether Sporting have reneged on the deal or not, you can't escape criticism for how we've negotiated this deal and how we continuously negotiate transfer deals of this kind of nature. Yes, I understand that what Sporting have done is very shitty, no doubt about it. If that's what they've done, if they've agreed on a deal and then reneged it the next day, that's a shitty thing to do. But we shouldn't be scrambling around in the last few days of the window to try and get this deal done and risking this deal not getting done because we've waited for the last few days of the window to negotiate this deal and try and get the best price. We should have had this done on the first day of the window, or even we've had teams like Chelsea who already had players lined up before the window, and then they come and join. Cody Gakpo as well, Liverpool as well. They signed him before the window, so why can't we do something like that? There's no reason why we had to wait till the last few days of the window. And also, Paul O'Keefe is saying that potentially he had a release clause that the clause in the release clause for Porro's contract was that it wasn't valid in the last 12 days of the window. Now, if you're going to wait till the last, I don't know if they knew that or not. They must have had some knowledge of that clause, in my opinion, or otherwise they're not doing their job.
Paul O'Keefe said they kept it quiet until late in the discussions. So they still
Sporting kept it quiet.
Sporting kept it quiet in the negotiations, yeah.
Well, that's a very shitty thing to do. That's very sneaky as well. But if they didn't know about it, then I guess there's not much they can do. But if they did know about it, then waiting till the last week of the window was very foolish because they lose a lot of leverage. because if you're negotiating in the first part of the window with that clause there sitting there, you have a bit of leverage there, because you can just say, look, if we will pay this release clause if these payment structures don't suit us. But with that, if that clause then winds down and then it's no longer active, we don't have that leverage there. So all of a sudden the ball's in Sporting's court. We have to agree with something with them, and we don't have that fail-safe of just activating the release clause if need be. And now we're stuck. We're at the whim of Sporting at the moment, and that's the reality. But how many times have clubs been at the whim of us and we've made them sweat like this? So I don't blame. I mean, it's a shitty thing to do, but do I blame Sporting, who are in a league where the resources are very much limited compared to the Premier League, to try and squeeze every single million out of Tottenham? I don't necessarily blame them, although it's a shitty thing to do to renege on a deal.
We've blamed Daniel Levy many a time for doing something very similar to this, and we've put it all on him for doing something like this. So when Sporting do it, it's only right to put it all on them as well, no matter what the previous is. Yes, Daniel Levy's got previous. Yes, I'm going to put it on the hierarchy for not getting it done early, 100%. But it's not right what Sporting are doing right now, especially with the negotiations with Spurs, but what they're doing with the player as well, telling him he can go, this is his last game. He's waving goodbye to the fans and saying goodbye to all his teammates and everything like that. And suddenly the deal's off because they've moved the goalpost and completely changed what they want from Tottenham. And now they're asking for more money and more money and more money. When's this going to end? I mean, yes, there's both faults at party, and Spurs should have got this done way earlier, and it's on us for not getting it done way earlier, because we had the opportunity just to put the money down on the table and Sporting couldn't have done anything about it. It's our fault for waiting this long, but to get to at this stage, a day before the window shuts, and to move the goalposts yet again after they've told PEDRO Porro he can leave, after he said goodbye to everyone and waved goodbye to the fans, it's not right. It's really not right. And if you're going to lay into Daniel Levy for doing it every single time, which we do, you've got to lay into Sporting for doing it now.
I don't agree with what Sporting have done, but at the end of the day, if Daniel Levy was in their position, he'd probably do the same thing. Yeah. That's the reality, and you got to realise that we're Premier League clubs in a privileged position with having that much money coming into the league and that much money to spend. For example, let's just take this. I don't know if it's true or not. This 2.6 million administration fee. When it comes to Premier League teams, that's like a drop in the water. That really isn't a fee that you should be negotiating over. That's a fee that, if that is a sticking point, you have to pay it and you move on. But that is, when it comes to the Portuguese league, that's a significant amount of money. That's actually quite a lot of money to be dealing with this and to be trifled with. And if that's something that they've had to deal with over the administration of the meetings and the negotiations because of whatever. Jets or meetings or whatever, somehow they've built up a 2.6 million administration fee. I can understand Sporting wanting that paid, and I think it would be on Tottenham to pay that, in my opinion. But that should have been obviously made clear before probably the day before last day of the window. So. When you're a club that has a limited means, like Sporting, who are in the Portuguese, compared to Premier League clubs, they're always going to try their best to squeeze every little everything around the money. And because we're not in a position to just pay the release clause as fail-safe, we have to play ball in a way. I think Levy has to swallow his pride and play ball, and for the good of the team and for the good of the player as well, to get him through the line, we have to play ball and we have to try and get this deal over the line. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here for another 6 months with Emerson and Doherty at wing back. We're going to have the fans being very toxic again, and the player, and we're probably not going to get the player in the summer either. I would imagine. I reckon. I feel like it's a moment in time right now that we can get Porro, and it might not be the same in 6 months' time. I definitely wouldn't bet on it.
We saw with Dybala, like we saw with Bruno Fernandes, like we saw with João Moutinho, like we saw with every other deal that we've scuppered over the years.
Yeah,
with Jack Grealish.
Basically, Levy's been levied.
Yeah,
that's what's happened in this deal, and we need to deal with that. And it's all on Levy, because I tell you why. Even though Sporting again are shitty for agreeing a deal, then reneging it 100%. I think that's a really shitty thing to do. But we are the ones that gave them the opportunity to wait this long in the window to by going in so late. Absolutely. So we only have ourselves to blame at the end of the day for being in this position where we either play ball or we risk losing the play. If we would have done this right at the beginning of the window, then we would still have time to negotiate this and iron these things out. But because we only started late in the window, this is the position we're in. So I don't see how the hierarchy can't escape any criticism for what's happened here.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, I put the majority of the... If Porro is not here by the start of by that Man City game, or by the end of tomorrow, by the end of that transfer window, the blame has to go solely on the hierarchy, in my opinion, no matter what Sporting have done. Like you said, look, when you're looking at all deals since over the past 10 years that have been scuppered by Spurs, 99.9% of it is down to Daniel Levy and his negotiation tactics. It's no surprise that we're the ones that are always going in for these players, and we're the ones that are consistently missing out year on, year out. So it's just that thing. It's the common denominator every time, the common denominator in every deal that always breaks down. Daniel Levy is always at the helm of it. Daniel Levy is always at the centre of it. And now we're hearing Daniel Levy is going to take over negotiations.
Well, yeah, Ali Gold apparently he's doing a Q&A on his Football London right now, and he said all the deal is now in the hands of Daniel Levy and President Federico Varandes, after we heard that the deal was being negotiated by intermediaries for both parties beforehand. They clearly haven't been able to come to a full agreement, so it looks like both heads of the clubs are going to go head to head with this one, and hopefully they can hash something out before the deadline. But both, I know Levy, we know, notoriously hard to deal with, but what I don't understand is, like, yeah, as you said, like Wolves and Fulham and were able to get deals done fairly swiftly in the summer for João Palhinha and Matheus Nunes for fairly similar fees to what we're looking for PEDRO PORRO. But all of a sudden, when it comes to us, it's a very complicated deal that, you know, is really difficult to do. And it's because of how we deal with things.
They had a stance, and we kept trying to work our way around that stance every single way, just so they can win negotiations once again. How many times have we spoken about over the years that Spurs don't even look for the best deals? They just want to look to win the negotiation. It's not about sometimes it's not even about getting the best deal for the football club. It's just getting to win the negotiation for Daniel Levy and his ego. And I've had enough of it. I really have had enough of it. And it's just about getting the deals over the line. When Paratici first came here, I remember he did an interview and he was like, oh, if you have to pay 1 or 2 million over the odds to get the deal done, you go and do it. When's that ever going to happen with Spurs? It's not going to happen. And you're talking about a deal that's going to be scuppered over 2.5 million for a player like PEDRO PORRO, who we desperately need. It's an absolute disgrace if this deal gets broken down over 2.5 million. If that's the real situation, it really is. How can we let a deal for PEDRO PORRO go for 2.5 million?
And what frustrates me as well is, like, Arsenal got a deal done for Trossard for, again, a fairly similar fee when you're talking about euros, like maybe 35 million euros, you would say, for Leandro Trossard, for a player. They got it done within a few hours, and this was a player they didn't even desperately need in their squad. They're just supplementing their squad in terms of depth. Yeah, we're here negotiating for a player we are beyond desperate for at this point in PEDRO PORRO. He is so vital to Conte's system, to how we want to play, to upgrading on that position. He comes straight into the first team as a massive upgrade on what we currently have, and yet we are spending we are waiting till the end of the window to try and get the deal done, even though we could have definitely used him this month, which is whatever. That's by the by. That's beat and gone now. We can't even talk about that. We need him this month to be playing games. But we're still haggling, and we're still like, it's in the balance whether we're going to get this player who we so desperately need, and we're risking not getting this player over the line, but for the sake of, I don't know how much it could be, but it can't be more than a few million between getting this deal done or not. And it's just so frustrating as a Tottenham fan, where we know this is a player that we desperately need. And it was so
easily gettable as well. Yeah, it was so easily. This deal was so easy to do.
We could have paid the release clause if we really wanted to, and now we would rather risk the deal not getting done than just paying the money. And it's very, very frustrating from a Spurs fan's point of view. And look, I do think, by and large, this is a negotiation tactic from Sporting, and I do think that they're asking for more money to try and squeeze more out of us. But I do think there is a deal to be done here still. I know Ornstein said it was off, but I'm not saying that he's wrong, but the deal might be off at that point. Doesn't mean it can't go back on, if you know what I mean. Doesn't mean, it's off in a sense that they changed the deal, so suppose there's no. So at that point, the deal is off, but it doesn't mean that they can't renegotiate.
He said it very definitively, though, like, this deal is off, and everyone else is saying it's still on. It's very weird, because...
But he said it's off, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. The deal, just because the deal was off, doesn't mean that's it. It's not happening. It just means the deal was off.
He knew what he was doing, Ornstein. He knew that people were going to take, like, this is not happening, this is never going to happen.
Well, yeah, because right now it's not. Because we don't have an agreement. We had an agreement a couple of days ago,
and right now we don't. Spurs and Sporting are still in negotiations.
Yeah, but when it's this close to the deadline, the deal is currently off. That's what he's saying.
When he says deal off to me, what that kind of understands in my head is that the deal is off. It's not going to happen. The negotiations have completely stopped.
No,
that's what I get from it.
I don't get that. I get that the deal is off now. Like, for right now, the deal is off. This is like a current state of play. The Sporting reneged on the deal, and the deal is now off. Doesn't mean it's going to remain off till the end of the window, because Tottenham could turn around and say, okay, we'll pay the money or whatever, or they could still be negotiation. As you know, Ali Gold's saying, the two chairmen are now in talks, and they're going to try and see if they can come to a solution. So the deal could very well come back on.
Surely, just for like a happy camp's sake, and Sporting's, he's saying the players distraught. Ali Gold saying the players desperate for the move. Dan Kilpatrick saying the players really pushing for this move. I mean, does Sporting really want a player like that on their hands, where he's going to be unhappy by staying there?
Probably not. As I said, I do think that. I do have a feeling this deal will still get done. I do have a feeling that this is Sporting just playing really hardball and trying to get more money out of Tottenham, and Tottenham don't want to be taking the piss out of, because Levy has a big pride and big ego when it comes to more money coming out of the club, and he's done it a million times. So you can't bullshit a bullshitter, basically, and that's kind of like Levy senses he's being bullshitted here. They're trying to eke more and more money. So at some point they're just like, look, we've agreed a deal now. We're not going to give you more money. But I think the intermediaries have been at the centre of this negotiation so far. And now, and hopefully,
those guys, by the way, are PORRO's agents, who are CAA base, and they're the agency as well who work more closely with Tottenham than anyone else. How can they not get this deal done?
I can't answer that. I don't know, but I think this is a lot of it is pride and ego, and I think if we need to set that aside if we're going to get this deal done, and if Sporting are really gonna put their dig their feet in this one and demand this extra few million,
the bloody money,
then I think we just got to pay and put our ego aside, because 100%. this is the state of play. It's interesting to hear. I was listening to a Twitter space, and it was led by a freelance journalist on Sky Sports. He was claiming, first of all, he's claiming that Spurs do have backup options for Porro, even though it doesn't seem like it right now. He's claiming that they definitely do have backup options for Porro if it does fall through.
Where was he from?
He's a freelance journalist, from a freelance producer at Sky Sports.
Right.
That's who he is, apparently. He was claiming that Spurs definitely do have a backup option for Porro, most namely someone, he didn't give names, but he said namely there was a very experienced right wing back in Spain who plays at a very high level, who Tottenham would definitely be interested in, although he didn't give a name.
Danny Carvajal, Hector Bellerin.
It better not be Bellerin, that's all I'm saying. He said it's somebody he wouldn't necessarily want, but someone who would definitely bring experience or something like that, or a good player.
Guarantee you, if this Porro deal doesn't come off, we're not getting another right back.
He also claims, which is interesting, I don't know how true it is, obviously, he also claims that the structure of the deal, which Tottenham had agreed with Sporting on beforehand, would allow Tottenham to go ahead and push for a centre-back in the last couple of days of the window and afford both this window. But with the reneging of Sporting and with them pushing the boat with how much, if Tottenham were to agree to the new terms of Sporting's valuation, then Tottenham would no longer be able to afford a right wing back and a centre back in this window, which I don't believe for a second.
Such bollocks. Such bollocks. We heard from reliable people like Ali Golden and stuff like that saying Porro is most likely going to be the last one in. And they're talking about centre-backs like Hincapié and other players like that. They're going to be summer targets. We're putting in a derisory bids of 25 million. That's nowhere near what they want. And I guarantee you now, if Porro doesn't come in, we ain't signing. We ain't signing other right back. I guarantee you. Look how long it took us to negotiate for Porro. Do you really think we're going to get a deal done from now until the end of the window for another right back?
Well, we got Janjuba done very quickly.
Oh, it's not going to happen.
You never know.
It's not going to happen. We are a laughing stock. We're an absolute joke. We can't get a deal done that we've been working on all month.
Always seems to be the deals that we don't necessarily need and we get done quickly, but the ones that we are desperate for and that we that make the most sense and we desperately need, all of a sudden those are the ones that get dragged out and get put into doubt. And it's so frustrating being a Tottenham fan. Honestly, like, this club has made this fan base like completely bipolar, like with how we react to things, and we can never be too sure and too happy with a deal until we see a player holding up the shirt, because these things tend to happen at the moment. Let's just hope over the next 24 hours a deal can be done. But having had the here we go from Romano, having had all those positive updates a couple of days ago about this deal being done today, it is so frustrating and quite frankly embarrassing that we're now here on Monday and this deal is in the balance. That should never be the case.
This is what you call karma for Mr. Daniel Levy. This is karma at his best. Literally, he's done this to so many chairmen over the years. It had to come back and bite him at some point, and it's coming back to bite him now. Obviously, we'll wait and see over the next 24 hours if a deal can be done. Some journalists like Romano, especially Romano, think that it still can happen. So let's hope that it does. And if it is only 2.5 million, if we miss out on this deal over 2.5 million, he is literally going to have riots on his hands, Daniel Levy.
Romano should pay the fee just to save his credibility. He should pay the 2.6 million. He can afford it.
Yeah. That is your daily Porro. At the moment, the deal is off for Pedro Porro to come to Tottenham Hotspur. We'll have to see if any developments happen.